In this WrestleTalk news, the Usos call out salty tag teams over the PWI 100 list, potential Bray Wyatt faction members have been spotted on NXT, and Austin Theory apologizes backstage, plus loads more, so subscribe and enable notifications to Always On for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
Well, Luke's not feeling well, so you are stuck with me. Go and wish him well on Twitter. Feeling well and doing well, though, are WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions Jimothy and Jason Uso, who found themselves riding high on PWI's Tag Team 100 list. Not just high, the highest, taking the #1 spot for themselves. They is the ones. They is. But their placement at the pinnacle of tag team wrestling has drawn the ire of some of the other names on the list who have also had a stellar year, namely #2 slot FTR and #3's the Briscoes. FTR's Dax Harwood tweeted to say, "Did Paul Heyman write this issue? Cause this full of lies." Whereas Jay Briscoe said, "Imagine if we weren't banned from TV. Usos my ass. Hashtag Dem boys." But the Usos hit back with a lot of salty ass tag teams out there. Huh? Hashtag we the ones. Salty ass. In the case of FTR, that's 2 big trunks full of salt. It's not the first time that a PWI list has opened up a whole can of worms for the wrestling community, and it definitely won't be the last. Because it's wrestling, and the truth is, there is no can. It's just a big F-off colony full of worms. From worms and beef to worms and teeth and maggots and magic, because we're now talking about Bray Wyatt. Well, at least tangentially, as 2 former ROH stars were spotted in the crowd of last night's NXT episode. Vincent Marseglia and Dutch of The Righteous were among audience members for the episode. Now, according to PW Insider, the pair are currently in Orlando as part of ongoing WWE Performance Center tryouts that are happening throughout this entire week. Now, it's unknown whether the pair have signed with WWE, but this all feeds back to Wyatt because they were previously rumored to be eyed as part of Bray's suspected Wyatt 6 stable. Now, the fire was of course fueled by Bray, who interacted with a social media post from Dutch a while back suggesting some sort of alliance between the two. Now, other names listed as potential members of the Wyatt 6 by Dave Meltzer back in October were Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Grayson Waller, Joe Gacy, and Bo Dallas. Now, we're going to have to wait and see what the future holds for the Righteous, but considering that they were spotted on TV, the signs do look fairly promising. Sticking with WWE, and the newly minted US champion Austin Theory had a match with Mustafa Ali on Raw this week in Washington, D.C., for which he has reportedly apologized backstage. Because during the match, Theory botched a top rope Hurricane Rana spot that left both men crashing to the mat really rather awkwardly. Now, Fight for Select did some following up and found out there was no heat between the 2 stars, and the champ took full responsibility for the slip-up and offered an apology to Ali. It's wrestling. These things happen. This, though, is the way to conduct yourself when they do. Now, the spot should have gone down with Theory blocking the Hurricane Rana attempt and then angling for a top rope powerbomb only for Ali to hit the Rana anyhow. However, Theory just didn't quite hold on to Ali and both men face-planted the canvas instead. It was awkward, it was ungraceful, it was basically like me trying to do any wrestling move at all, not even a hard one. Before we crack on with the rest of the episode, we just need to thank Double L Liam Leonard and Mad Mac the Meat Father for their support on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys. Now, the culmination of AEW's year-long story about backstage unrest is upon us as former NXT dad, turning winningest AEW stable father, William Regal is the center of speculation about leaving the company and returning to WWE. Now, rumors have claimed that Regal had a contract clause allowing him to return to WWE if Triple H ever gained power, which seems wild, and various other reports have also suggested that Regal thought there was a maturity issue backstage at the younger company. And that makes Dad mad. EC3 even went so far as to suggest that Big Willie Reegs immediately regretted his decision to join AEW, something which a new report from SE Scoops refutes. According to the report, AEW sources called EC3's claims completely inaccurate and said that EC3 was merely venting frustration over not having landed a job at the company himself. So you're suggesting that EC3 is trying to control somebody else's narrative? Interesting. Wilhelm Regal isn't the only person potentially on their way to WWE, because I mentioned earlier that the E is holding Performance Center tryouts this week, which the Righteous have been attending, but so have a couple of other interesting names, namely Kylie Ray of the Smiley gimmick, who has been seen in All Elite, Impact, and the NWA, as well as indie shows up and down the US. And also Casey Navarro, who has been making waves with appearances in AEW and Major League Wrestling, and is also the current Warrior Wrestling World Champion. Sticking with WWE, and Drew McIntyre announced that he will be missing this week's edition of SmackDown, as he was medically disqualified from competing, which meant that the planned tag match where he teamed with Sheamus against the Usos for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships would not be going ahead. That is a huge opportunity missed for McIntyre there. Dave Meltzer followed up on Wrestling Observer Radio, noting that this isn't a storyline injury, this is legit, saying, "He is injured, I was told an injury, but it's not from a first-hand source, but he's supposed to be back for the Christmas show. So it's only a couple of weeks, I know that." Here's wishing Drew well in his recovery. Now, while WWE's stock of talent dwindles, AEW's ever-expanding roster continues to swallow up all of the wrestling landscape. Last week's Rampage introduced us to another new face for AEW, Shane Taylor, master of beer pong, all-around lovely guy and phenomenal wrestler. However, some fans took issue with the way that Taylor was introduced, essentially siding up to Keith Lee during a backstage interview and challenging him to a tag match at ROH Final Battle. Little was really said of who Taylor was, what his previous accolades are, which left some fans confused as to why he was there, I suppose. Now, Tony Khan has defended the decision to introduce Taylor like this, and generally his booking of debuts for his ever-swelling roster. I guess they can't all have big run-ins and pops. He said there are fans who have never seen Shane Taylor before, and that's okay. You get introduced to new faces all the time. When I was a young wrestling fan, that was one of the things I liked about WCW Nitro, and I think it would be very ironic now that the same promoter, Eric Bischoff, would tell you you don't want to see these faces or introduce new people on TV because they were the ones that did that. Sticking with AEW, back in October, AEW's Athena came under fire for a particularly stiff match she had against Canadian independent wrestler Jody Threat on AEW Dark. The reports at the time even noting that the pair were spoken to backstage afterwards to make sure that everything was okay. Now though, Athena has appeared on Busted Open Radio and voiced her frustration with a certain double standard in wrestling, something that both she and former AEW Women's World Champion Thunder Rosa have been criticised for. She said, "People forget that girls can hit just as hard as the guys. I guarantee you, if I was a man, I feel like there wouldn't be as much backlash or anything about that." She went on to say that this double standard usually came from old bloated farts and told them to get over it. "We're out here to be just as good as the guys and we give it our all. We put in all of this time and effort to hone our craft, and I feel we're underappreciated when we do things like that." I mean, it does indeed seem poignant that we have matches like Gunther versus Sheamus, or Chris Jericho versus Tomohiro Ishii, or Minoru Suzuki versus, well, like anyone, and we praise it boundlessly. But the same level of stiff striking seen in women's matches is often condemned. And over on Raw, a women's triple threat main evented the show, with Alexa Bliss being victorious over Becky Lynch and Nikki Cross, earning the right to face Bayley next week to determine the #1 contender to Bianca Belair. Now, unfortunately though, it seems this wasn't enough of a draw for the viewers of the show, as despite the overall viewership of Raw coming in at 1.536 million, the third hour of Raw drastic go down. According to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics on Twitter, the final hour of Raw averaged 1.263 million viewers, which is the lowest third hour record since Raw became 3 hours in 2012, and the lowest single hour ever recorded for the Red brand. But hey, the 18 to 49 demo was up to a 0.41, so you know, silver linings and all that. NXT last night was definitely a noteworthy show, not least because the final entrants for the Iron Survivor Challenge were revealed, and boy, that match type sure is going to be That's gonna be something, isn't it? Also, the bloody New Day showed up from out of nowhere to challenge Pretty Deadly for the NXT tag titles, which will be happening at this weekend's Deadline show. That sounds fun. And that wasn't all for the returns, as Drew Gulak showed up for the first time on NXT in 3 years to have a little watch of Charlie Dempsey in his win over Hank Walker. Charlie Dempsey, of course, being the son of William Regal. Willie Regal to return to NXT and make his own Blackpool Combat Club faction with Dempsey and Gulak confirmed. And finally, before we get out of here, we just wanted to wish a quick congratulations to our friend Denise Salcedo, who will be part of the NXT Deadline kickoff panel this weekend. Go get him, Denise. Go wish Denise well on Twitter, everyone. Do Luke first, then Denise. All right.
In this WrestleTalk news, WWE has no plans for a SmackDown star, Rampage's worst ratings ever, and our review of Raw.